The stars stretched endlessly across the dark sky. But the galaxy had never felt darker for Lyra. She ran, her small feet barely making a sound against the cold metal floor of the abandoned space station. Every shadow seemed alive, every creaking panel a warning that someone was coming. To the galaxy, she was the most wanted criminal, a dangerous outlaw who had escaped every prison and patrol. But in truth, she was just a scared child, no more than 12, who had survived on fear and quick thinking. Lyra's heart pounded as she pressed herself into a corner of a narrow corridor. Her breathing came in shallow gasps. She had seen the patrol ships scanning the station earlier, their lights piercing the darkness like hunters' eyes. She had to move. She had to hide. Every step she took was a risk. One wrong move, and the galaxy's authorities would catch her. From the shadows, Lyra watched a figure approach, a human. Not an officer, not a bounty hunter, just a human in a long coat, their face calm but careful. The human paused at the corridor's entrance, eyes scanning the area. Lyra froze. She had learned long ago not to trust anyone. Every kindness she had once known had turned to betrayal. Her small hands trembled as she clutched a piece of stolen food, the only thing she had managed to keep from the station supplies. "Hey, I'm not here to hurt you," the human said softly, almost whispering. Their voice carried a warmth Lyra had not felt in years. She wanted to run, to disappear into the shadows, but something in the human's tone made her stop. It was strange. Not threatening, not cold, but gentle. Lyra's mind raced. Could she trust this stranger? The thought made her chest tighten. She remembered the last time she had trusted someone, a traitor who promised her shelter. That trust had cost her. A week of hiding in freezing cargo bays, narrowly escaping patrols. She shook her head, trying to push the memory away. No, she could not trust anyone. The human stepped closer, careful, showing no sudden moves. "You don't have to be alone," they said. "I can help you." Lyra's eyes darted to the exit. Authorities could be anywhere. The sound of a distant metal clang echoed through the station. She had to decide. Trust this human and risk capture? Or run and risk exhaustion and hiding in the dark forever? Her stomach twisted in fear. Suddenly, a patrol drone whirred around the corner, its scanner lights sweeping the corridor. Lyra froze, heart hammering. The human grabbed her small hand quickly, pulling her behind a stack of crates. The drone passed by without noticing them. Lyra's breathing slowed, but her mind was racing faster than ever. Why are you helping me?" she whispered, her voice barely audible. The human crouched to her level. "Because I see you. Not the criminal everyone fears, just a kid who needs help." Lyra wanted to cry. She wanted to scream that it wasn't true, that she was dangerous. But something in the human's eyes, calm, kind, patient, made her hesitate. Maybe she could try. A sudden alarm sounded across the station, warning of a nearby patrol ship. Lyra felt panic rise like a tidal wave. The human held her hand tightly. "Come with me. We have to move now," they urged. Every step felt like walking on a knife's edge. Lyra's mind raced with questions, but she forced herself to follow. The corridor twisted and turned, filled with shadows and echoes. Her small body pressed close to the human's side, trusting them. Just a little dot as they reached a dimly lit escape hatch, Lyra paused. She glanced back at the corridor, at the shadows where authorities could appear at any moment. Then she looked at the human, their hand still steady in hers, their eyes calm and unjudging. For the first time in a long while, Lyra felt something she had almost forgotten: hope. But the galaxy was vast, and danger was everywhere. This human might be her first friend, or the last mistake she would ever make. With a deep breath, she stepped into the hatch, following the human into the unknown. The human led Lyra through the narrow corridors of the abandoned space station. Her small hands clutched the coat sleeve tightly, afraid to let go. Every corner seemed darker than the last, every shadow a potential threat. She had survived on fear for so long that trust felt impossible. Yet, a strange warmth in the human's calm voice kept her moving forward. "They're close," the human whispered, peering into the darkness ahead. "We have to be careful." Lyra's heart raced. Her mind kept flashing back to the patrol drones, the alarms, the bounty hunters. All the time she had narrowly escaped capture. Could she really follow someone she barely knew? Could a human really help her when every other encounter had ended in betrayal? They reached a small storage bay, dimly lit by flickering lights. The human crouched beside her, motioning for her to stay silent. "We'll wait here for a moment. I need to check the patrol routes." Lyra watched as they worked, their hands moving quickly over a small holographic map. The human's focus was precise, careful, yet not cold. Lyra realized something she hadn't admitted to herself before. The human wasn't afraid of her. They weren't judging her. That simple act of seeing her as more than the most wanted criminal made her chest tighten in a way she didn't understand. Minutes passed, but they felt like hours. Every faint creak of the station made Lyra flinch. She whispered, almost to herself, "Why are you helping me?" The human turned and looked at her, their expression soft but firm. "Because you're not just a criminal, you're a child. And no one deserves to face the galaxy alone at your age." Lyra's eyes widened. No one had ever spoken to her like that. Most people either shouted at her, chased her, or ignored her. Completely. The human's words were simple, but they carried a weight that made her feel. A distant alarm echoed across the station, shaking the metal walls. Lyra instinctively ducked behind a crate, heart pounding. The human's hand found hers again. "Stay close. We move on my signal." They crept through the shadows, slipping past corridors and maintenance shafts. Lyra noticed the way the human moved, careful, deliberate, almost like they were dancing with danger. She had never felt this protected, this safe, even in the darkest moments. Suddenly, a drone whirred around the corner. Lyra froze, her pulse in her ears. The human whispered, "Don't move," and slowly pressed a panel on the wall. The crate they hid behind slid into a narrow side passage, just as the drone's lights swept past them. Lyra's small body shivered with relief, but her mind was racing. Could she really trust this human to guide her through the dangers ahead? After what felt like forever, they reached a tiny room at the edge of the station. The human closed the door gently and leaned against it, breathing heavily. Lyra sank to the floor, overwhelmed by the tension. She had been running, hiding, and fighting for so long that the idea of sitting safely felt unreal. "You're safe here. For now," the human said, crouching beside her. "But we need to plan our next move." Lyra hesitated, then asked, "Why? Why are you doing this? Everyone else wants to catch me. No one cares about why I'm running." The human smiled faintly, their eyes steady. "I care, and I want to help you. But you have to trust me, even a little." Lyra swallowed hard. Trust was dangerous. Trust could get you caught. But the way the human looked at her, it was different. Maybe, just maybe, not every human wanted to hurt her. For the first time, Lyra felt a spark of something she hadn't felt in years, hope. It was fragile, small, like a tiny star flickering in the darkness, but it was there. She looked up at the human, and for the first time she nodded. Not fully, not yet, but enough. "Okay. I'll try," she whispered. The human extended their hand, and Lyra took it. Together, they moved deeper into the station, leaving the safety of the small room behind. Every step carried danger, every shadow a possible enemy. But now she had someone by her side, someone who saw her for who she really was. And as they disappeared into the darkness, Lyra realized that the galaxy might not be as cruel as she had always believed. Maybe, just maybe, A single human could change everything. The corridors of the space station were narrow and dark, but Lyra's small hand stayed firmly in the human's. Every creak of metal and flicker of light made her flinch, yet she did not let go. She had learned long ago that running alone kept her alive, but running alone also meant loneliness. Now, for the first time in years, she felt something she didn't recognize: safety. The human led her to a wider passage, where the hum of machinery echoed like a heartbeat. "We need to find a way off this station," the human whispered. "But first, we move carefully. Every wrong step could alert the patrols." Lyra nodded, her eyes wide, scanning the shadows. She had watched humans before, and most were unpredictable. Some had tried to trap her, some had shouted, some had ignored her. But this human moved differently. Slow, calm, deliberate. Not afraid of her, not chasing her, not judging her. "You know," the human said, glancing at her, "you're faster than most adults I've seen. You've survived longer than anyone could imagine." Lyra's cheeks burned. Praise was rare. Suspicion rose in her mind. "You're just saying that," she muttered, trying to sound tough, though her voice shook. The human smiled faintly. "I'm not. I've seen it, and right now we need that speed." Ahead, a patrol drone swept past, its scanning lights cutting through the corridor. Lyra froze, her heart pounding in her chest. The human grabbed her shoulder gently, pulling her down behind a stack of crates. The drone hovered for a tense moment before moving on. Lyra exhaled slowly, gripping the human's hand tighter. "You saved me back there," she whispered. "Why?" The human crouched, looking her in the eyes. "Because I can. Because everyone deserves a chance, even you. Even someone the galaxy calls a criminal." Lyra stared at them. The word criminal had followed her for years. She had worn it like a scarlet letter, believing it defined her. But now, hearing it spoken without hatred, it felt different, confusing, hopeful. As they moved deeper into the station, the human explained a plan. "There's a small shuttle bay at the end of this sector. If we reach it, we can get off the station undetected. But the patrols will be searching." Lyra's stomach twisted. Escape was always dangerous, and this plan sounded almost impossible. Yet, the human's calm confidence made her believe it might work. She had never followed anyone so willingly before, yet here she was, moving step by step, trusting the human with her life. Hours, or maybe minutes, time had blurred past. As they navigated through maintenance tunnels, avoiding alarms and patrols, Lyra started to notice small things: the way the human watched for drones, the way they whispered instructions, the way they occasionally glanced at her with a kind, steady look. For the first time, she felt like someone actually cared about her choices, her safety, her life. They reached a locked door blocking the way to the shuttle bay. The human knelt, scanning the panel, then quickly bypassed the security with a small device. "Almost there," they said, their voice calm but tense. "Just a few more steps." Lyra's pulse raced. She peeked outside and saw the bay, shrouded in dim red lights. A small shuttle sat waiting, engines cold but ready. For the first time, Lyra allowed herself to hope that maybe she could escape not just the patrols, but the fear that had ruled her life. Suddenly, a distant alarm echoed. Another patrol was close. Lyra's heart jumped into her throat. The human grabbed her hand. "We move, now." Together, they sprinted across the corridor, shadows stretching and twisting around them. Lyra felt her legs burn, her lungs screaming for air, but she didn't stop. She had someone beside her, someone she trusted, a human who believed in her, who saw her as more than the galaxy's most wanted criminal. As they reached the shuttle bay, the human helped Lyra climb inside. The engines roared to life, shaking the metal floor beneath them. Lyra sank into the seat, her chest heaving, heart pounding, yet she felt Relief, not just from escaping the patrols, but from discovering something she had almost forgotten. Companionship. Trust. The human climbed in beside her, smiling faintly. We did it, they said. But this is just the beginning. Lyra looked out the viewport at the galaxy stretching endlessly before them. The stars seemed a little less cold, a little less lonely. For the first time in her life, she didn't feel like the hunted. She felt like someone who could change, someone who could be more than her fear. And as the shuttle glided silently into the stars, Lyra realized that this human had done more than save her from the patrols. They had shown her that trust, fragile, small, and dangerous, could exist, even for a child the galaxy called a criminal. The shuttle glided silently through the darkness of space, stars streaking past like silver rain. Lyra sat in the corner, knees drawn to her chest, staring out at the endless void. For the first time in her life, she wasn't running from someone. For the first time, she wasn't alone. Yet, a nervous tension clung to her chest like a heavy weight. The human sat across from her, quiet, watching her with calm eyes. Lyra knew she had to say something, to explain why the galaxy had labeled her as its most wanted criminal. Her voice trembled when she finally spoke. They don't know who I really am," she whispered. "They only see the mistakes I made. They don't know why I ran, why I had to survive." The human leaned forward slightly, voice soft, but firm. "Then tell me, I want to understand." Lyra swallowed hard, her throat dry. She had kept her past locked away for years, afraid that even one word would make her vulnerable again. But the human's steady gaze, the lack of fear, the absence of judgment, it gave her courage. Slowly she began. "My home. It was destroyed," she said. "My parents, they were gone. I had nowhere to go. People hunted me thinking I was dangerous. I did what I had to survive. I stole, I hid, I ran. And then the galaxy called me a criminal." Her small hands trembled as she spoke. "But I never wanted to hurt anyone." The human reached out, placing a reassuring hand near hers, though not touching it. "I believe you," they said. "I see the truth behind the fear." Lyra blinked. No one had ever said that, not a single person. She had learned to expect only scorn, only threats, only cold judgment. Yet here was someone believing her, trusting her words, seeing her as a child and not a criminal. The shuttle's engines hummed quietly, but the tension never left the air. Lyra looked down at her hands, her voice barely audible. "Sometimes I think if I let anyone in, if I trust them, they'll leave. Or worse, they'll turn me in." The human's eyes were gentle but steady. "That's the choice you have to make. Trust is dangerous, but it's also powerful. And right now it's your best chance to survive, and maybe to change your story." Lyra swallowed, her mind racing. Could she really believe someone? Could she risk showing her true self when the galaxy had always punished her for it? She wanted to run, to hide, but her legs felt heavy. For once, running didn't feel like the only option. Suddenly, a distant signal beeped from the shuttle's control panel. The human's brow furrowed. "Patrol ships nearby," they said calmly. "They might have traced the station's shuttle signatures. We need to stay quiet and change our course." Lyra's stomach twisted with fear. She had been hunted for so long that even the thought of escape brought panic. Yet, this time, she didn't panic alone. The human's calm presence gave her a strange strength. Hours passed in tense silence. Lyra shared fragments of her past, small stories of her childhood, the moments of kindness she had once known, and the betrayals that followed. Each word loosened a small part of the fear that had held her captive for years. Finally, the human spoke. "You're not the criminal they say you are. You're just a child who survived in a cruel galaxy. And now you have a choice. You can keep hiding, or you can use this chance to define who you really are. Lyra's heart pounded. She thought of the endless corridors she had run through, the patrol drones, the loneliness, the fear. And she thought of this human calm and unyielding, showing her that trust could exist even in the darkest corners of space. She looked up, meeting the human's gaze. I want to try, she said softly. I want to trust you. The human smiled, faint but warm. Good, because we have a long journey ahead, and the galaxy won't make it easy, but together, we might just change everything. As the shuttle drifted further into the star-strewn void, Lyra felt something she had almost forgotten: hope. It was fragile, yes, and the galaxy remained full of danger. But for the first time, she didn't feel alone in it. Someone had seen her truth, and that was enough to spark a courage she had never known. And somewhere deep inside, Lyra realized that the journey ahead would test her trust, her courage, and her heart. But with the human beside her, maybe, just maybe, she could survive and become more than the galaxy's most wanted criminal. The shuttle hummed quietly as it drifted through the shadowed sectors of the galaxy. Lyra sat gripping the edge of her seat, eyes wide, scanning every blinking light and distant star. The human sat at the controls, calm but alert, fingers dancing over the panels with practiced precision. Lyra had followed them this far, trusting them for the first time in years. But trust alone wouldn't save them now. The patrols were relentless, and danger waited around every corner. We need a plan, the human said, voice low and steady. We can't outrun them forever. The patrol ships are faster, more numerous, and they know this sector better than we do. Lyra swallowed hard, her small hands trembling. Then what do we do? She asked, voice barely above a whisper. The human glanced at her, eyes sharp and calculating. We use their own rules against them. There's a forgotten asteroid belt nearby. The patrols rarely check it because it's dangerous, but we can hide there long enough to reset our course. Lyra's heart jumped. Asteroid belts were treacherous. One wrong move and the shuttle could be torn apart. But the human's calm confidence made her believe it was possible. For the first time, she didn't feel helpless. She had someone guiding her, someone who believed in her. And that made all the difference. As they approached the asteroid belt, the patrol signals grew louder. Red lights blinked on the human's console. They're tracking us, they said, their voice tense but controlled. Get ready. We'll need to move fast and smart. Lyra gripped the edge of her seat. Her pulse raced as the shuttle weaved through the floating rocks, narrowly avoiding collisions. Every twist, every sharp turn tested their skill and nerves. The human's hands were steady on the controls, eyes flicking between the radar and the shifting shadows outside. Hold on! They shouted as a massive asteroid loomed ahead. Lyra ducked instinctively as the shuttle swerved just in time, the massive rock scraping past them with a deafening roar. Her stomach lurched, but she held onto the human's steady presence beside her. We made it, she gasped, heart still hammering. The human didn't relax. Not yet. Patrols are still on our tail. We need to split their sensors, make them think we went one way while we go another. Lyra's mind raced. How could they trick the patrols? Her small voice finally asked, "What do we do?" The human's eyes glinted with strategy. We'll use the shadows of the larger asteroids to block their scanners. I'll take the shuttle around in a loop. If we time it right, they'll follow the wrong path and lose us. You'll need to help me watch for any sudden moves. Lyra nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility for the first time. She pointed out shapes and shadows as they darted through the belt, alerting the human when patrol sensors blinked too close. Together, they moved like a single unit, trust and timing blending perfectly. Suddenly, a patrol ship shot past, almost clipping a nearby asteroid. Lyra's heart leapt, but the human steered the shuttle expertly, ducking into the safety of the asteroid shadows. Minutes stretched like hours. the tension almost unbearable. But slowly, the distant red signals began to fade. "We're losing them," the human whispered, a hint of relief in their voice. "One more careful move and we're free, at least for now." Lyra exhaled, feeling the first real relief in weeks. The galaxy was still dangerous, but for the first time, she felt capable. Not just a scared child running blindly, but a partner, a survivor. She had helped make a plan, helped execute it, and together, they had escaped the patrols. The human glanced at her with a small smile. "You did good. You stayed focused, stayed alert. I couldn't have done it without you." Lyra's cheeks flushed. Praise was still strange to her ears, but this time, it didn't scare her. She allowed herself a small smile, realizing something she hadn't thought possible. She was no longer alone. She had someone she could trust, someone who believed in her, and someone who made her feel like she could survive the galaxy's cruel ways. The shuttle moved deeper into the shadows of the asteroid belt, engines quiet but powerful. Lyra leaned back in her seat, eyes on the stars beyond. Danger still lurked. The galaxy was far from safe, but for the first time, hope felt real. Together, she and the human could face it, one careful, brave step at a time. The shuttle drifted quietly in the shadow of the asteroid belt, engines low, almost silent. Outside, the stars sparkled like distant diamonds, but inside the tension hung thick. Lyra sat forward, eyes wide, heart still racing from their escape. For the first time, she wasn't just running. She was thinking, planning, learning. The human glanced at her, a small smile on their face. "You've come a long way," they said softly. "Back there, you didn't panic. You stayed focused." "That's progress." Lyra hesitated. Progress? Could she really call it that? She had always been the hunted, the scared child, the one everyone feared. But now, she felt different, stronger, smarter. She had helped plan their escape. She had watched, learned, and acted. Maybe she wasn't just a survivor anymore. Maybe she could be more. The human leaned closer, lowering their voice. "I know it's hard. The galaxy has treated you cruelly. But fear doesn't have to control you. You have courage, even if you don't see it yet." Lyra swallowed, gripping the edge of her seat. Courage. It sounded strange when spoken aloud, as if it belonged to someone else. She thought of the narrow corridors, the flashing alarms, the patrols she had outrun. She thought of the human, calm and steady, trusting her even when she doubted herself. And for the first time she realized something important. She wasn't alone in being brave. Bravery didn't have to come from one person. It could come from two, from trust, from hope. Suddenly, the human's voice broke through her thoughts. "Lyra, we need to move again. Patrol ships are scanning nearby sectors. We have to reach safe space before nightfall." Lyra nodded, adrenaline replacing the fear that had been clinging to her for years. She jumped to her feet, alert, scanning the instruments and the shadows outside. "Which way?" she asked. The human pointed to a narrow path weaving between small asteroids. "Through there, keep your eyes open. Watch for debris, sensors, anything unusual." Lyra's heart pounded, but she didn't hesitate. This time, she didn't cling to the human out of fear. She moved with purpose, guiding them, warning them, pointing out shadows that could hide patrol drones. Her small voice carried confidence she hadn't known she possessed. A sudden flash outside caught her eye. A patrol drone was skimming the edge of the asteroid belt. Lyra yelled, "Left! Watch the left side!" The human adjusted the shuttle. Just in time, avoiding detection. Lyra's chest swelled. She had acted. She had made a difference. "Good job," the human said, glancing at her with pride. "You're learning fast. You're not just surviving anymore. You're changing the game." Lyra's stomach twisted. Changing the game? Could she really be more than the scared child the galaxy thought she was? For the first time she wanted to try. She wanted to be someone strong, someone brave, someone who could face the galaxy without hiding. Hours passed as they navigated the asteroid paths, and Lyra's confidence grew with every careful turn and alert warning. She started making small decisions, helping the human choose the safest routes, finding weak points in patrol patterns, anticipating dangers. She realized that courage didn't mean not being afraid. Courage meant acting despite the fear. And she had acted. Finally, they reached a quiet sector, away from patrol ships and prying sensors. The shuttle floated in stillness, the stars stretching endlessly around them. Lyra sank into her seat, chest heaving, but a strange calm filled her mind. "You did it," the human said, smiling. "Look at you. You've changed. You're not the scared child anymore. You're a survivor, a fighter. And maybe, one day, someone who can inspire others." Lyra looked out at the galaxy, thinking of all she had endured, all she had survived, and the trust she had found in this human. For the first time, she didn't feel like the galaxy's most wanted criminal. She felt like herself, someone capable, someone brave, someone who could make choices, even in the darkest situations. The transformation wasn't complete. Danger still lurked. Patrols still searched. But something had shifted inside Lyra. Fear was no longer the only thing guiding her. Trust, courage, and hope were growing, quietly, steadily, like stars forming in the void. And as the shuttle glided silently through the endless black, Lyra realized that the journey ahead would be dangerous, but she was ready. Ready to fight, ready to trust, ready to face the galaxy as someone new, someone stronger. The human glanced at her, sensing the change. "Tomorrow," they said softly, "we start planning the next step, together." Lyra nodded, a faint smile touching her lips. Together. For the first time she believed it could be enough. The shuttle drifted silently through the endless expanse of space, stars stretching like scattered diamonds across the void. Lyra sat beside the human, her small hands gripping the edge of the seat. Fear still lingered, but it was no longer paralyzing. She had learned to trust, to act, to survive, not alone, but with someone who believed in her. Ahead, the galactic authorities loomed. Patrol ships surrounded the sector, scanners sweeping in methodical patterns. The most wanted criminal, or at least the galaxy's idea of one, had nowhere to hide. But Lyra didn't feel helpless. She had the human beside her, and together they had a plan. "This is it," the human said, eyes scanning the radar. "We either pass through carefully, or we fight for our chance. Are you ready?" Lyra nodded, her chest tight with determination. "I'm ready." The patrol ships moved closer, their lights slicing through the darkness. Lyra's stomach twisted, but she remembered the lessons of the asteroid belt, the careful movements, the teamwork. She pointed out weak points in the patrol patterns, guiding the human. Together, they moved the shuttle like dancers in a deadly ballet, dodging scans and using the shadows of the debris fields to remain unseen. Suddenly, a patrol ship broke formation, moving directly toward them. Alarms blared across the shuttle, red lights flashing. Lyra froze for a heartbeat, then acted without thinking, shouting, "Left, hard left." The human swung the controls sharply, avoiding detection. Lyra's heart pounded, but pride rose inside her. She had helped save them. She was no longer just running, she was fighting. The patrol ship's scanners finally passed, missing them in the shadows. Lyra exhaled, relief washing over her, but the danger wasn't gone. The human kept the shuttle steady, scanning for another opening. "We're almost clear," they whispered. "One last maneuver." Lyra leaned forward, her mind sharp and alert. "There! Between the two asteroids, we can slip through." The human's eyes met hers, and a faint smile crossed their face. "Good call." Together, they guided the shuttle between the massive rocks, engines roaring quietly. The patrol ships couldn't follow. For the first time in years, Lyra felt something she had thought impossible: freedom. When the shuttle finally emerged into open, quiet space, the stars stretched endlessly before them, untouched by patrols or fear. Lyra sank back into her seat, breathing heavily. The human glanced at her, eyes full of respect. "You did it, Lyra. You stayed calm, you trusted me, and you acted. You're not the scared child anymore. You're more than that. You're a survivor and a hero in your own way." Lyra looked at them, blinking away tears she hadn't realized she'd been holding back. I never thought I could be trusted," she whispered, "or that anyone could see me, for me." The human reached out, placing a reassuring hand near hers. "You've earned that trust. And now you can choose who you want to be, not the criminal they say you are, not the scared child you once were. You can be you, brave, smart, and alive." Lyra's chest swelled with emotion. For the first time, she felt the weight of the galaxy's fear lift from her shoulders. She realized that the labels, the bounty, the danger, none of it defined her. She had survived. She had trusted. And she had grown stronger because of it. The shuttle glided onward, past shimmering nebulas and glittering star systems. Lyra gazed out at the galaxy, no longer seeing enemies or shadows, but possibilities, hope, courage, freedom. "Where do we go now?" she asked softly. The human smiled, eyes bright with determination. "Wherever you want, Lyra. The galaxy is vast, full of danger and wonder. But whatever comes next, we face it together." Lyra nodded, a small smile forming. She had come from fear, from running, from hiding in shadows. Now she had trust, courage, and a friend who believed in her. And for the first time, she felt ready to face the galaxy, not as its most wanted criminal, but as herself. The stars stretched before them, infinite and shining, and Lyra realized something powerful. Even in a galaxy filled with fear and danger, a single act of kindness, a human who chose to trust her, had changed everything. She was no longer defined by the past. She was defined by her courage, her choices, and the bond she had forged. And as the shuttle drifted silently into the unknown, Lyra whispered to herself, a quiet promise: she would live, she would trust, and she would face whatever the galaxy had in store. Because she was no longer alone.